Hey everyone, today we're going to look over 5 useless things currently in the game that could use a rework of some kind or to just be completely removed. Let's get into it. Starting us off is the most literal useless thing, which is luck. Luck is a status effect, or mechanic I suppose, that you can activate with offerings, and perks mainly. Luck sounds like a pretty great effect that would do quite a bit. Maybe it makes the items I pull from chests better, maybe it gives me less skill checks, maybe it gives me a greater bonus when I hit a great skill check, or a far higher chance to unhook myself. Well, it only really does one of these. The only effect luck actually has is an increased chance to unhook yourself. It used to affect trappers' traps, but then that effect was removed because, well, it was kinda unfair that trapper was the only one affected. So luck went from being kind of useful to not at all useful, I would argue. So now all it does is bump up your chances for a self unhook. All those things people think it should do are what it probably should be reworked to do. So what could be added to luck to make it a bit more worthwhile? Better chest odds would be nice, maybe a chance to have a good skill check become a great, a higher chance to not disturb crows, a chance to make your positive status effects to last slightly longer. Stuff like that I think would be great. Things that feel like actual luck. These random boosts or bonuses to things basically. The base of a higher chance to self unhook is a great base thing, but it needs a bit more to it. I feel luck needs to be this thing which can actually provide you with luck, with small boosts here and there that could come in clutch, but aren't completely game breaking. Let me know what you'd do with this status. It's a tricky one I feel, but one with lots of potential. Mist offerings, or the Regent offerings, are something that were kind of a replacement for the Moonlight offerings, that affected the brightness within a trial. They were originally removed because they altered the trial far too significantly, and the devs wanted more control over the lighting within the trials. With the darkest Moonlight, some trials were made too dark essentially. So the fog offerings were like this compromise that spawns in a thicker fog as a result. My issue with these offerings is that they don't really change much, even with the maximum amount of fog, which I believe can be achieved with a purple and then either a brown, yellow or another purple. You can also make the fog a bit less thick with the clear Regent. On most maps, these things suck. I think it's one of those things early on that you run quite a bit because it sounds helpful, but the actual effect is nearly useless. I think the reason for these being so ineffective is because of the Moonlight offerings being too effective. The middle ground, as it were, is this. Useless and pretty ineffective. The offerings currently that I do like are the ones that feel like they change the trial meaningfully, but in a small way that doesn't completely change gameplay. The newer ones like the Bloodied and Torn Blueprint that let you influence the general area of the hatch spawn are good examples of this. The coins that let you influence the number of chests slightly. The oak branches that let you influence the distance between hooks and the number available. These things have varied effects, but they all do something that feels mildly meaningful. My suggestion for mist offerings therefore is to make them more focused, specifically like the blueprint offerings. The thin base level fog that appears anyway stays, but with these offerings we can choose to cloud either the shack or the main structure in a thicker fog. Not thick in the way we have it now, but thick to the point where you have to go closer and enter the foggy area to see things properly. This would allow killers to possibly gain a better advantage in or around powerful structures, but equally the survivors could use it to hide themselves entering the shack or the main structure as a means to sneakily do generators that may spawn there. It could read like this: Murky Regent spawns in an incredibly thick fog around the main landmark, if available. This then scaling for the different rarities, and also having an option to spawn it at shack. Let me know what you think of that one. Crows may seem like a weird thing to call useless. Crows are kind of an outdated mechanic, or a mechanic that was never really fleshed out beyond its initial iteration. Crows sit there, they can be disturbed, and sometimes as a killer you can use them to track survivors down. This is rare though. In terms of perks, we have one perk for each side that interacts with the crows, and these originate from the base game. Spies from the Shadows for killers, and Calm Spirit for survivors. This is another one of those things that, when I first started playing, I thought meant something. I thought if I disturbed a crow, the killer knew where I was. They can, on rare occasion, find you through crows, but I really feel like that is rare, especially with the distinct lack of crow-based perks, as odd as that sounds. To an extent, I think the crows are meant to just be an ambient feature, with a mildly useful application for killers, but that just feels kinda pointless. So even if the crows weren't changed, it would be nice to get a bit more variation with them. In Dead Dog, we get some of these vulture-looking birds that replace place the crows in places. This alone would be nice to see on other maps with different creatures. Equally, if we were to go in more of a meaningful gameplay route, possibly when a generator is completed, all the crows in the vicinity could fly away permanently. This may sound strange, but it would be an extra use for the crows, showing survivors where gens have been completed, as a little environmental indicator, a bit like the lights that turn on currently. I guess my other thing for crows is just giving them more perks. More crow-based perks. I would love a perk, for example, that had some kind of fetch mechanic, so you could feed the crow and then it can go off and collect a dropped item, or find the nearest generator, or a teammate's location. Maybe there could be crow offerings, where you can choose to spawn crows more densely in a certain area, or maybe for killers specifically nearer to generators, or thin the number in the trial as a whole. Let me know what your crow ideas are down below. Seriously, I really like the crows, but I feel like they need to be more involved. I'm not too sure how though. Memento Moris are currently pretty pointless. They used to be far too overpowered, allowing you to insta-kill someone after hooking them once, and prior to that without hooking them at all. Now they require 2 hooks, allowing you to Mori on what would be their 3rd hook, or death hook. I think the main issue with these is that they never particularly fit being offerings. They always felt quite cheap. You put on an offering and then you essentially get a free kill and a considerable advantage. Now you put on an offering and you get a cool animation. It's fine as it is, but the whole offering part feels kinda silly in my opinion. The devs have already mentioned that they want Moris to become more integrated into gameplay over offerings. I don't remember the specific wording, but from the sounds of it, they're going to make the Moris base kit for a killer. I would assume this doesn't mean we just always have a Mori on, or something like that. I think always having a yellow Mori would be quite cool. The yellow Mori allows you to kill the last survivor in the trial. This would work as a base mechanic, either to reward a killer for a successful game, or to punish a survivor's side for leaving behind a teammate. I hope the way it's integrated though is a bit more meaningful. Like, I would love to see it be a proper reward for doing well. Maybe you have to max out your BP, or get close to, and then you unlock the Mori, or maybe there's even a randomized challenge for each game, and if completed you can Mori someone who's been hooked twice. That way it's optional and more like a flair and show of extra skill, instead of just putting an offering on. It would be this extra level for high skill players. They can try in 4K, then also complete the Mori challenge. It's probably just going to be the yellow Mori becoming base kit, but I think that challenge thing could be kind of interesting, as an optional side objective. Charms currently are purely cosmetic. There's something about charms that to me always felt like they should have some application to gameplay. Charms are often associated with being lucky, or you know, a lucky charm. Currently these are really small, kinda hard to see, and there's too many of them. Here's my thoughts and idea for them that another game kinda inspired. The ghost shell in Destiny. The ghost shell at its core is just a cosmetic. You can switch between any shell you want, and all the same things are available. On the shell you can choose different upgrades. You can choose to boost your XP, receive a certain reward when doing activities, or boost your material or currency gains. This is a good way to make a cosmetic thing purposeful. I see so many people on the forums and the subreddit saying that charms don't really do anything, and they often don't use them because of this. They're just this small and fairly insignificant cosmetic. This was kinda how ghosts were before in Destiny. Originally they didn't have all these different effects, but now with them there, they give it a purpose aside cosmetic. For Dead by Daylight, these boosts could come in the form of BP gains, iridescent shard gains, or general boosts in some way. For example, each charm you can equip one blessing or effect, say. So for one you could put on the BP booster. It could be something minimal like 3% extra BP gains, 9% if you run 3 of these on all 3 of your charms. If they didn't want to directly give you shards, they could give you XP boosts, helping you to level up quicker, which does give you shards. Again, like 3% for each charm or something. Or you could combine them and do 3% BP, 6% XP. Alternately, charms could open up new ways to grind, by say, extending your BP earning potential for a certain category. You could equip a boldness booster to a charm, and then when in a trial, you can gain an extra 2000 BP in the boldness category. That way you can play to your strengths, and gain more BP for doing so, not losing out as much if you run the kill it all game then die. It would be this small way to customize your playstyle and choose where you want to be gaining more rewards. This also gives the charms more of an in-lore meaning, with them acting as these blessings. They're like offerings that the survivors wear, and the killers hang from their hooks. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your own thoughts on this down below. Thanks, and goodbye.